Hi everyone, Vinay here. Welcome back to my channel Learn Coding with Vinay and the playlist ASP.NET Core MVC. In this video, we will learn how Entity Framework Core handles data type in an ASP.NET Core application while creating database tables through migration. Right. First, we will create a model with different C# data type and see how they are automatically converted into a SQL Server database type, right? Using Entity Framework Core's default mapping. In the later part of the video, we will learn how to override this default mapping and specify the exact or required data types that we want, right? So that generated database structure matches the real world requirements, right? So let's jump into the video. So I have created the MVC project. Let me bring that up. I have already created the MVC project called data types in EF core, right? And ran it once. So we can see the home and privacy link are working nicely, right? So let me close this. Now since we will be working with entity framework, we need to install first required packages, right? So and what are they? We will have to install few packages. Let me bring on screen. These three packages are required primarily for entity framework core functionality. First one is Microsoft Entity Framework Core, second one is Microsoft Entity Framework Core.SQL Server, because we'll be using MS SQL, and the last one is Microsoft Entity Framework Core Tools. Let me go ahead and install one, and I'll demonstrate one, and later rest of the two I'll do it in the background and come back. So let's go on installing the package. So we'll go to Tools, NuGet Package Manager, Manage NuGet Packages for solution. And one thing to note over here is this project was created using ASP.NET Core 9. So while installing these packages, we'll have to make sure that we are taking the equivalent package only, right? Basically corresponding package only, right? So let's go to browse, copy paste the name, search it. So here is the one, Microsoft Entity Framework Core. Select the project. From here, make sure to select the version as 9.0.14, because we have created the project in Core 9. If it was in 10, go ahead with the latest version of the 10. So let me say install. Say I accept. The uninstall button has enabled and install button has disabled. So we can see that the package is installed. We can go ahead and see it over here also in dependency packages, and let's expand the packages, and this is the package that we just installed, right? Now let me go ahead and install these remaining two packages in the background to save time and video length. So I have installed all these three packages. We can see it over here in the dependency packages. All three packages are installed, and make sure to hit this save all button, because it saves the we need to save the project file, because project file will also have entry of these three packages. Let me go ahead and open the project file and show you once. See, the project file is open, and see, we can see the project packages installed in this project. We can see it over here. So let me close this. Let me also close this now, and let's move to the next step. Since we are done with the package installation, next we want to do is to let's go ahead and create the model. So we'll take a simple employee example. So we'll go to model, right click, add class. We'll give it a name employee.cs, and we'll put down some properties. I have the code ready actually, so I'll just copy paste them over here and explain what we are going to do. So in the employee model class, we will put down some properties, and these are ID, name, address, email, mobile, salary, height and weight, birth date, joining date, and is active. Right now, I have taken these uh, properties, keeping try to keep all possible data types of C sharp and SQL. Right. So over here, ID is integer, name is string, and address, email are string. Mobile is long integer basically, because it's a 10-digit number. Right. Salary is again a double to cover large numbers. Height and weight are decimal, keeping a fractional point in mind. And then birth date. Usually when we store birth date, time is not required, so it is just the date only. Then joining date. when did the employee join the organization, so that is date and time, right? And whether the employee is currently active or not, boolean. So quite of data types are covered over here, and we will see how does they are converted into a SQL data type when we run the migration. So let's go ahead and save this. So this is done. Now let's go ahead and add the DB context. So let's create one more folder called data and add their DB context class. We'll say add folder, we'll give it name data. In the data folder, we'll again say add class, we'll give it name appdb context. And appdb context is the class that will be responsible for having database operations, right, with the database. So it is a bridge between C sharp, your controller code, and database that helps us access database stuff, basically CRUD operations, right? Read data, delete data, update data, insert data, all those stuff. In this video, we will not be doing those things, right? Because we just want to understand how while the migration, how the C sharp data types are converted into a SQL data type, corresponding data types, right? That's what we want to achieve. So let me just go ahead and put down the required code over here. What we will be doing, we want to make sure that it is inheriting from DB context, right? And we want to make sure that while we run the migration, we create a employees table, right? So whatever table we want to create, that we'll have to mention it as a data set over here in the DB context class, right? So we are done with this. Next thing we want to do is to add the connection string. So let's go ahead and open the app setting.json, and let me put down the required connection string over here. So this is again my server, my database, my local machine, right? So I'm taking ef types db, and let me take you to the ssms also and show you once that we don't have the ef ef type database in my machine at this moment, right? It is ef types db, right? So we don't see ef type db over here, right? Which is good. Let me just refresh these ones, right? Let's move to the next part. So connection string is ready. Now what do we need to do? We need to go ahead in program.cs and register our db context. So let's go ahead and register db context. So what we'll be doing, we'll be adding this line over here, right? So we want to let our application know, okay, you are going to use this appdb context class for database operations, and this class will ultimately use this connection string which we just defined in app setting.json. So our program is actually connected with this SQL server and this database, right? Currently it's my local machine only. Ideally in a real world project, it would be some IP or FQDN name that is lying on within the company's network, or sometime even on cloud, right? Whatever it is. So we need to mention the connection string over here. Now we are done with program.cs. Let me quickly just check. We are done with the db context class. We are done with the model also, right? So let's move further. Now let's go ahead and run our first migration. So we'll go to tools, NuGet package manager, and package manager console. Let me just say clear over here. And to run, we need to use the command add migration. We'll give it a name initial migration and say enter. And let's wait. So the migration file has been created. Let's take a look at it once. So we can see the over here, we can see the migration folder. In the migration folder, we'll have two files created. One is the migration file that we will be using to update into the database. Second one is the snapshot of the migration. So we will be opening this one. Right. So what do we have? See, it has created a C sharp code that ultimately will run to create the database and table within it. Right. So what it is going to do? It is going to create employees table with following columns and with the data types mentioned over here, right? Now we have not explicitly specified data types for our model, so we will be uh, so what will happen actually, entity framework will choose the default data types for all these model properties, right? So these are what it has chosen. So let's go ahead and run the migration, basically update the database. Now update database, let me say enter, update hyphen database and enter. Okay, so the update database command has also been successful. Let's move on to SSMS and see. So let me go ahead and refresh once. Let's go. We have the database created now, ef types db. Let's expand it. Let's expand the table. Let's expand the employees table and columns. Right. So we have name as varchar, address as nvarchar, email as nvarchar, mobile as big integer. Right. So I have summarized this. What we have taken into the C sharp and what do we see in what do we see it in SQL data type, right? So in C sharp, we have taken a property with integer that will have the similar integer data type in SQL, just like our ID column. Let's go ahead and see ID, we have integer, and let's go ahead and see ID into the our model class also. So let me go ahead and open. I think it should be open over here, right? Okay, so integer. Then next the string name. String would be converted by default, it will be converted to nvarchar max. So let's take an example of it. So name over here, it is string, and let's go to the SQL name. We have nvarchar max. Similar stands with the address and email because they were also marked as string only. Now next, let's move to the mobile number, which is declared as long, right? So long will be converted to big integer in SQL, right? So let's go ahead and see, right? So it is big integer over here, right? Then salary was float, and so salary was double. So let me go out over here. Double treated as float in the SQL data type. Then decimal. A decimal will be treated as decimal only. So we have salary, sorry, it's height and weight marked as decimal. Let's see what do we have it in database. Height we have decimal and weight we have decimal. And remember, by default it is taking the max 18,2. Right. So let's move ahead. We have birth date only, because while storing birth date we don't need time, right? And another example is join date and time. The join date and time would probably require an employee's joining date and time, so that's why we need time also. Let's see what it was converted into. So birth date was converted into just the date, and joining date was converted into date and time too, right? So here it is date, and this is date and time too. And the last one is boolean. So boolean in C sharp is actually converted to bit type in database. So here we can see bit, right? So here what it is converted, right? Now this is the default setting. With the default, if you don't specify any data type in our class, on our model class, this is how it is converted into a SQL table and data types, right? So by default it takes the for string, let's say it takes n varchar with the maximum length, right? For decimal also it took the maximum length, right? But what if we want to specify accurate data type considering real world in mind, right? What if we want to do that? Because if we go blindly with this, so what will happen, there will be unnecessary data types and unnecessary length will be used, right? For example, let's say our application, let's say we are working on employee management application, and we are restricted to our India only, let's say our country only, right? So in our country the name and all those things are not actually, we don't need Unicode support for that. Unicode support you need it when there are multilingual data. For example, name in India, probably we will use English only, right? So over here we don't need Unicode character support, right? But if let's say we are working an employee management software for a multinational company that is spanned over multiple countries in the world, so consider French, consider China, consider Japanese, right? So those languages are actually Unicode languages because uh, uh, they are not just plain English, they have some extra characters also, right? So that we'll see it in next example, right? So what we'll be doing, let's go ahead and create the one more model. Now before we create that model, let me bring that example what I'm talking about, right? So let's say name, instead of, let's consider that our application is used in wide across all over the countries, right, all over the world. So we need unicode support also for name, right? Because consider these few names example, right? This is French, this is Chinese, and I think this is also French or something, or maybe Italy, right? So we need an unicode support for the names. Address, again, address can have, unicode characters sometimes, so we'll keep it and varchar, but we are keeping it 500. Remember, we don't need name as a max, because I think 200 is good enough to store any name, right? Again, 500 is good enough length to store any address in the world, right? Next is email, right? So email probably is the one that is usually in English only. It email column is something that doesn't require unicode support, right? For example, this is my class address, learncodingwithvinay@gmail.com. It is plain English only, right? So here we don't need unicode support, so nvarchar is not required, right? Salary, so here we are taking again the default one only. We'll take the max one to accommodate, someone with a larger salary, very big salary, right? Now next one is the height. Now height, we have taken decimal 5 comma 2, right? So most of the time height is measured in either in feet or inches, right? So probably some data like this 45.20 or 56.50 is a kind of real world data that someone mentions their height in, right? So two decimal, after dot 2 digit, and before that there I think 3 digit would be good enough, so that's why we have taken 5 comma 2, right? And weight, again we have taken as decimal, and this time we have taken 6 comma 2, considering, weight is stored in a different measurement in different countries. For example, in India it is very common to store weight in a kg and grams, right? So there we will need decimal 6 comma 3, but it's somewhere else in other country like USA or Canada, they store in pound, right? So there we need something like, 100.50, this example, right? So after decimal they just need 2 points, right? So these are the example of real world. So we will have to take our data type and their length close to this, considering the real world example, real world data around it, we'll have to take this. So let's do that. So I hope you understood this, and let's convert our, create one more class. So what I'll be doing, we'll take this same employee class. I'll just make a copy of this, right? I'll just say F2. I'll make it as employee 2. Say enter. We'll make this employee 2, and let me go ahead and remove this actually, and I have this data types mentioned already with me. Let me bring that and copy paste it over here, right? And for this, for this annotation to work, we'll have to make sure that we are using this system.componentModel.dataAnnotation.schema using, and it is included on the top. So now what we are doing over here, for the name we are telling it, okay, you take nvarchar data type but keep the length 200. For the address we are making sure again, take the type as nvarchar but take the length 500 only, right? For the email we are taking it, as varchar and length as 150, which is good enough, right? For again mobile we are not taking anything, let it be default, so it will be decimal 18 comma 2. Again salary we are taking the max only, decimal 18 comma 2. For height we are taking decimal 5 comma 2. For weight we are taking decimal 6 comma 3, right? For weight, right? And we are keeping the birth date, joining date, and is active same, because that they produce the desired data type only, right? However, date and time can be, this can be taken as date and time only, because it is converted into date and time too, which is actually required to store a larger fraction of milliseconds. If we don't want that, we can explicitly define that take date and time to over here also, but that is I'm not doing right now, right? So let's go ahead and create the migration now. So what we will be doing, I'll go to package manager console again, I'll say clear, and I'll say add hyphen migration. Let's me write employee 2 with desired data types. Let's say enter. So it has generated the file, but it has not generated any code over here because I missed to add data set over here. So let me go ahead and add it over here, data set, mark this as 2, mark this also as 2. That was the mistake I made. So let me go ahead and delete this. So what we will be doing, I'll go ahead and remove this, delete. Okay, right, now let's go ahead and run the migration again. Go to package manager console, let's say clear add migration employee 2 with desired data types. Okay, so it has run the migration. CSA file is created and it is going to create employee 2 table with this table, these columns, and notice the data type and length. Now whatever we have mentioned, that is coming up over here, right? So this is good. Let's go ahead and update the database. So we'll say update hyphen database, and let's wait for it to run. So let me go ahead and quickly check. It has generated the required database stuff. Let me go ahead and see if there are any red stuff. The red, basically if there is any error, it will be indicated in red over here. Yellow are warning, we can ignore it. And so we don't see anything wrong over here. Let's go ahead and check the database. So click on here, refresh it once, expand the tables. Let me expand this a little bit. We have the employee to table. Let's expand it. Let's expand the columns, and we can see that the desired data type and length are there. nvarchar 200, nvarchar 500, varchar 150 for height and weight, decimal 5 comma 2 6 comma 3, right? And per date, joining date is active. So this we have not specified anything, so they are as it is, right? So this way we can generate the desired data type. One more thing I wanted to bring to your notice over here was, in the employee model we specified everything as mandatory, right? So even weight, we see not null over here, but when we created employee 2, let me go ahead and employee 2, I marked it as a question mark. So ideally it can accept null, right? So that is the reason we see a slight difference over here in weight, that over here weight is marked decimal 18 comma 2 not null, right? But over here we have marked it decimal 6 comma 3 and null, right? So basically we can produce the column the way we want, with specific data type, its length, and basically characteristic also, like whether it should be null or not null, right? So I hope this will give you a good idea about how the models, CSAP models, are converted into a database table, right? When we run the EF core migration. So I hope you like this video. For more such video and or ASP.NET Core MVC tips, join my channel, which is Learn Coding with Vinay. Watch out for new videos in the ASP.NET Core MVC playlist. And thanks a lot again watching this video, and I'll see you in some other video. Thanks a lot, guys.